Hi, this is Sweet June coming back at you with another interesting video topic. Hanging out tonight. Hope everybody had a blessed Sunday. I'm off tonight. Um, Body's getting a little adjusted to third shift, so I'm gonna be out for a while, which I stay up late anyway. So I figure while I'm doing that, I might as well clock in some videos. This topic is I'm gonna do this topic. It's my title is gonna be things that your daycare center won't tell you, or daycare center slash teacher won't tell you. I should have actually did this video a while back. This video should have been done a while back, but I was looking through my book here. Now, this is my book that I write down all my video topic ideas. And I was going through it, and I looked at it, because I had wrote everything down, and I looked at it, and I was like, oh my God, I should have did that. I had forgotten. I should have did this video a while back. So I'm going to do it today. So it's a little bit past the time that I was. Well, there's really no expiration date on video topics, but it's been a while since I worked at the daycare. But I still know a lot about it. So I was gonna do it way back, but I forgot that I actually wrote it down. So I'm gonna do it today. Now, those of you who have children in daycare, or you're contemplating, go back and check out my video, Daycare Tips for Parents. If you're contemplating on putting your child into a daycare, check out my Daycare Tips for Parents video. That is an excellent video. It's giving you some great tips. Um, but when I was working at this daycare, I learned a lot of interesting things. I've seen a lot of things that you wouldn't normally see, looking from the outside in. Or if you a parent, just bringing your child to a daycare. My children were basically actually in a home daycare, so they wasn't really in a daycare type setting. I mean, they did go to Head Start, but other than that, I didn't really have them in a daycare. They were in a home daycare, and so. But when I was working at this daycare, I notice everything. I don't miss a beat. I pay attention to everything. And there is a lot of things that go on in daycare centers that people do not know. You couldn't possibly know unless you was working in one, or um, you happen to be a parent that pops up on a daily basis, which in most cases parents don't do that because they have to work. So I am going to tell you, I'm going to let you in on some little secrets. All the time that I worked at this daycare, I've seen a lot of things, and I observed a lot of things, and there was a lot of things, like I said, that was going on that you wouldn't that you you wouldn't even realize you know that was even going on. So it's things that your daycare center slash teacher will not tell you. There's things that they won't tell you, but I'm here to tell you. Okay. Now I wrote them down, compiled a list of all the things that daycare centers will not tell you. They're not going to tell you. The best daycare center director in the world is not going to tell you these things that goes on behind the scenes. These are things that go on behind the scenes at daycares, okay? At least at the one that I worked at, and I'm quite sure it's quite a few of them. So, first one is violations. Daycare centers is not going to tell you all the violations. Actually, if you really want to know, it's public information, and you can go on the government site, and you can actually check out, and they actually post those things on the internet, but you have to actually kind of dig for the information. But they're not going to just come out and tell you, oh, we got a violation last year because of A, B, and C. What daycare is going to tell you that? They're not going to tell you if they have any violations, even if it's a recent violation. They are not going to tell you. So just forget about it. I mean, you want to know about it. If you're a parent looking to put your child in the daycare, my suggestion is to you is to do your homework and research it, because they're not going to just come out and tell you. Number two is children that are biters. Especially particularly if you're looking to put your baby, a child under the age of 3, if you're looking to put them in a daycare type setting, you're going to pretty much look for, you got to kind of look for at some point your child to be bitten. It's just going to happen. I mean, um, no matter how much you can have the best teachers in the classroom, but it's going to happen. Um, but because of confidentiality, the teachers can't tell you which children are biters, even if it's a situation to where your child got bit and the teacher has to do an incident report. I've had parents come to me and say, well, which one was it? And I'm sorry, I can't tell you that because of confidentiality. The teachers can't tell you which child bit your child. So if your child gets bitten, the teacher, because of confidentiality, cannot tell you which child. And the reason why they do that is because it prevents, because that parent could create a biasness towards that other child. That parent could have a biasness, an attitude, a bad attitude towards that parent and that child, and it could cause friction between that other child's parent and the parent that got their child bitten. So we don't want to cause any problems like that, and we don't want to create a biasness. That parent having a bias towards a particular child or whatever like that. So it's a confidentiality issue. The teacher is not going to tell you which children, babies in the class that bite. They're just not going to tell you. You have to play a guessing game. Unless the child is old enough to talk, that's the only way you're gonna find out. Now, if they're at the age of 3 and they get bitten, well, that child's gonna tell you which child bit them. But if they're under the age of 3 and they're not talking yet, then they can't tell you, and the teacher can't tell you. So you have to play a guessing game. So number 4, teachers show favoritism. I'm here to tell you that teachers show favoritism. We are not supposed to. The teachers are not supposed to show favoritism. You're supposed to treat all the children the same, and but I think it's human nature. I think it's human nature to gravitate more towards other children or whatever. But like particularly if you got some children in the classroom that have behavior issues, it's easier. And then you got another child in the classroom that is more meeker. They're more meek. They're more obedient. Of course, you're gonna gravitate towards that child. I mean, I remember we had a child in the classroom that I worked in before I left. And he was just a little sweetie. I mean, he was just a little sweetie. When the mother would bring him in, he would cry for his mama. He would call for his mama. He'd go to the room, up to the window, looking for his mama. And we kind of had to hold him and everything, and calm him down. Because he had a serious case of separation anxiety. So we'd have to hold him and calm him down. And he was just the most. Oh, he was just the cutest little thing. I mean, he was only 3 years old, but he seemed a lot younger than that. And we would tell the other children to pick up the classroom and everything, and then we would kind of just, because he liked to we had these little miniature couches, and he would kind of like to lay on the couch, and he kind of liked to lay around a little bit, and everything. And so we tell the other children to clean up the classroom, and we just keep on letting him keep laying there. So me and the other teacher, we were kind of guilty of baby, and we babied this little boy. And I'm sorry, I'm guilty, but he was one of my favorites. I mean, he was one of my favorites. And he was actually the only child that could get away with hitting me, but he would do it in a playingly type way. It wasn't, a serious way. He would do it kind of like playing, or he would pinch me in a playful kind of way, and I would let him get away with it a little bit because he was just so cute. This child was he was just such a little cutie. So, yes, the teachers do have favorites. I mean, I'm sorry, it's human nature. It happens. Um, ain't no teacher in her right mind gonna tell you that. They're not gonna tell you that. Oh, I favor this child or that child or whatever. Uh, I mean, they're not gonna tell you. I mean, teachers do have favorites. I mean, they favor the children. It's human nature. But that's something that a teacher will never, or the daycare will never tell you. Well, 9 times out of 10, the management probably don't know about it. So, number 4, Teachers will not tell you what they really think of your child. Teachers won't really tell you what they think of your child. I'm sorry, but there were some children in the classroom that had what they call challenging behavior issues, and just every day that this child would come into the classroom, we had this one particular child that he was a little bit on the spoiled side, and we would have an issue with him every day that he would come into the classroom. We would have an issue with him, and because he was spoiled. Because if the parents are spoiling the children at home, it's a reflection when they bring them to school or to the daycare. Then the teacher is going to have to deal with with all the results and the backlash of that. See, parents don't understand that when they bring the child to the daycare. And anything that you're doing or you're not doing at home, it's going to manifest when they bring the child to the daycare. The teachers has got to deal with that. The teachers got to deal with the aftermath of that, and that's something that a lot of times parents don't understand. And so this child was a problem every day. I mean, he would throw chairs, literally throw chairs at the other kids, um, throw tantrums, you know, uh, spit on you, cuss at you. He had some serious issues, and we did not like him coming through the door. Matter of fact, when his grandmother or whoever would come to pick him up would show up, we would get so excited. It was, oh, look at mom's here. Oh, grandma's here. Oh. So we would get so excited because um, we just didn't look forward to him coming in the classroom. So teachers are never going to tell us. They're never going to tell you if your child happens to be one of them that is not they're not cool with. Then but you never they're never going to tell you that. They're just I'm sorry, we're just never going to tell you that. We're not we going I mean, a lot of being a daycare teacher is there's a lot of acting involved in being a daycare teacher. Believe it or not, there's a lot of acting involved, and you got to fake it till you make it. And it's a certain way that we have to talk to the parents. So um you come in and your child is the one that we not cool with, that the teachers ain't cool with. Then 9 times out of 10 you're not gonna know that. We're not gonna about to tell you that. The teachers are not gonna tell you that. So that's one of the things that you don't know. Number 5, teachers know most of your business. They know a lot of your business, because particularly when you're dealing with 3-year-olds, the children are 3, 4, 5, 3 and up. They're coming to the classroom and they're pretty much talking about everything that goes on at home. They're telling the teachers everything that goes on. We had one little girl that came in the class and she gave us way too much information. Was talking about her mother taking her clothes off. Some guy was there. I'm like, oh my God. And she gave us way too much information, so we knew more about this her mother's business than we should have known. And so we teachers know your business. I mean, you wouldn't be surprised. You'd be surprised how much business the teacher of your business that teachers really know. Particularly if a teacher, and the teachers know the parents' work schedule a lot of times, and um, if a parent has a day off, and we know you have a day off or whatever, and you bring the child into the daycare, uh, the other teacher that I would work with, she would be like, now she know she at home. What's she bringing the child to the daycare for? Which, parents need breaks, but, you know, so teachers know a lot of your business. I mean, they do. And I've had teachers tell me, give me the whole nine, the whole scoop on particular parents in the daycare. They would give me the full scoop of them. So You think the teachers don't know a lot of your business? 9 times out of 10, they know a lot more than you think they know. So number 6, teachers hate when you pick your child up at the last minute. If the daycare center closes at 5:30, the daycare that I worked at closed at 5:30. Some of them close at 6, whatever. Um, I was the closer, for a long time when I worked at the daycare center, I closed. And the closer is never gets out early, because it's always going to be those parents that going to come in at the last minute. They're going to come at the very last minute to pick up their child. I mean, if the daycare center closes at 5, you always going to have them parents that's going to come in at 5:25 or even 2 minutes, or 5:30 on the dot, you know. And don't be a couple of minutes over. You go a couple of minutes over, we're not happy. We're just not happy with you, because we expect for parents to come. I mean, I know that the daycare center closes at 5:30. Then yeah, you do got, technically you have until 5:30, but most parents come, before that, way before that, to pick up the child. Even 15 minutes before. Most of the parents are gone. By the time, if I'm closing the classroom, most of the parents are gone, and I got like 1 or 2 kids left. Parents are coming to get them at the last minute. Well, I'm waiting on your child to leave. I got the classroom all closed down. I'm waiting on your child to leave. Your child leaves, I'm out the door, you know. So teachers pretty much hate that, particularly if you're working with a teacher that has to close the classroom. They're not happy about seeing you come in at the last minute, because everything is done and we ready to bounce, you know. So, we just waiting on you to come get your baby. And don't be late. You be late, oh my goodness, we really got an issue, because then we got to call the parent and all that, and go through all that trouble and stay past the time that the daycare is open to make sure that you get your child. So that's number 5. But we'll never tell you that. The daycare will never tell you that. Number 6, or that's number 6, I'm sorry. Number 7 is, unless there is a mark on your child, you're not going to know about every accident unless there is a visible mark on your child. If your child gets hit or something like that, if there's a visible mark, we have to do an incident report, and we have to call the parent and tell the parent. The procedure before I left this daycare was, we called the parent first and told the parent, and then we filled out the incident report, and then we had to put the time on the incident report when we called the parent. Um, if there's no visible mark on the child got hit or whatever, and there's no visible mark on the child, then we're not going to tell you. We're not going to tell you. I mean, you're not going to know about if your child got hit, and as long as there's not a mark, then we don't tell you. I mean, we're not going to tell you. So you're not going to know every time. Or even if your child fell, if we're walking the children down the street and your child fell, but there's no mark, you know, we don't tell you. 9 times out of 10, we're not going to tell you. We're just not going to tell you. So you're not going to know about every accident. The only ones that you're going to know is, if there is a visible mark, because then we have to tell you. Um, Number 8 is, if your child has behavioral issues, we're not happy to see your child come into the classroom. It was like when I was talking about before, that there's certain kids that that the teacher's not going to tell you what they think of your child. When I was talking about that, if your child has behavior, if your child is one of those children that have always had behavioral issues, we are not happy to see that child. Like I said, a lot of being a daycare teacher and a teacher period is acting. There's a lot of acting involved. When the child comes in the classroom, you got to fake it till you make it. Uh-huh. Yeah. So, and then the parent leaves, then we're like, Or if that parent, if we know, like I said, we know your business. If we know that you were supposed to be off on a particular day, but you bring the child in anyway, and this child has behavior issues, we like talking about you. We're like, now she knows she should have let him at home. She didn't have to bring him in today. She had to. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. I know I've had children that the child had behavioral issues, and the parent came to get the child, and I'd be like, yeah, yeah, mm-hmm, yeah, and talking to the parent and everything. Bye, so and so. Bye. I see you. Have a good one. And then as soon as they walk out the door, so I'm just keeping it real. I'm just keeping it 100. If your child has behavior issues, the teachers are not happy to see them. I'm sorry. It is what it is. That was number 8. Number 9 is ratios. Classroom ratios are very important to teachers. The less children, the better. They say in my classroom, I was working in a 3-year-old classroom, and the ratio was supposed to be 10 to 1, 10 children to 1 teacher. And the management didn't understand it. Just because the ratio was 10 to 1, that doesn't necessarily mean you can handle it, because if you got behavioral children in the classroom with behavioral issues, out of that 10 kids, you might have 3 or 4 that has behavioral issues. So it's like having more than 10. So you kind of try to manage them and keep them under control. Plus, you don't want them to, sometimes they'll rile up the other kids. So if those kids rile up the other kids, you got 10 kids running around your classroom that's wilding out. So just because the ratios is 10 to 1 doesn't necessarily mean that it's, that's cool and you can handle it. It depends on the temperament of the children. If you got 4 or 5 of them that got behavioral issues, or even if you got 2 of them that got behavioral issues, you got to put most of your focus on getting these 2 under control while you're keeping those other children under control. So it's very difficult. So the less children you have, I remember when I first started uh, um, being left alone with, well, I used to close the classroom, and when I was left alone with 10 kids, when they first started leaving me with 10 kids, I would get nervous. I started getting nervous at first because I was like, oh my God. So the less children, the better. Trust me. And number 10 is teachers. I did I wrote over it. I took a permanent marker and wrote on the other side of the page, so I'm having a hard time reading this. Is Teachers won't tell you how stressed they really are. Um, I know there were times when me personally myself, I was very stressed out a lot of times. Like I said, working in childcare is a very stressful field. It's very stressful working with little kids, and very stressful. Especially if you had a particularly challenging day where you had kids wilding out on you and stuff like that. You've had to haul them up and down the street, and they falling out, having tantrums, and while you're trying to get them from point A to point B, and you had to deal with all these things in the course of a day. Um, Plus, you got your own issues to deal with. I know I was having my health issues and getting older, and my body breaking down, and all these other issues. And you dealing with all these other issues. Plus, you got to deal with the kids. But when you come in, we gotta, like I said, we gotta fake it till we make it. We gotta be like, all smiles and, yeah, yeah, you know. So the teacher with 9 times out of 10 is never gonna let you know. She's not like not trying to let you see your sweat, and she's not gonna let you know how stressed she really is. But 9 times out of 10, she's stressed, particularly if she's working full time. Number 11, money is very important to teachers. Pay is very important to daycare teachers. Like I've said in my other videos, it's a very low paying field. When I left out of the daycare that I worked at, I was making $9.40 an hour. Actually, now I'm making more than I was at working at the daycare. So I'm starting out at this job making more money than what I left making at the daycare. Go figure. So I was there 4.5 years, almost 5 years, and I was making nine. I left out of there uh, making $9.40 an hour. I started out at $8 an hour. I left making $9.40 an hour. So the pay is, the money is not long, the pay is not good, and that could make a difference between that could it could be a difference between you liking the job and hating the job if the pay is not good, unless you're a person that really has a passion for it. And God bless, I really admire the people that can work in early childhood, um, in the early childhood care field, and really love it and really have a passion for it, and really, you know, despite the pay, despite how much money they're making, I really take my hat off to those people. But I guess I'm not one of those people. The pay is very important. I know that was a common complaint across the board with everybody at the daycare that I worked at. There was a common complaint across the board for everybody that um, she just simply just was not paying enough, and people just was not making a livable wage. People just was not making enough money. Everybody complained about that. Every teacher in the building complained about it. So, and it was on a constant basis. So, pay is very important to daycare teachers. Very important. Um, Number 12, social media. And I threw this one in at the last minute because sometimes your teachers are on it while they're watching the children. Yes. Unfortunately, we got people have these Android phones, and you can get on YouTube, you can get on Facebook, you can get on Instagram, you can get on all these social Twitter, you can get on all these social networks just at your fingertips, And 9 times out of 10, um, a lot of times I witnessed it in the daycare that I was working at. A lot of teachers were on there. Um, I would wait. Me personally, I wouldn't do it while I was watching the children. I would wait till the children were asleep. I mean, we weren't supposed to be on our phones at all, but I would wait till the children were asleep. Then I would kind of pull out my phone a little bit. But a lot of teachers were doing it right in front of, like, they're sitting at the table, supposed to be engaging with the children, doing activities with the children. They might whip out their phone and get on Facebook right quick or whatever, or check their email or whatever. It happens more often than not. You know, I've seen teachers outside, standing outside on the playground, supposed to be watching kids. They're on the phone, checking their Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is that they're checking. So me personally, I never done it while I was outside on the playground. Never even took my phone outside, or I wouldn't do it while I was supposed to be engaging in activities with the children. The only time I would say I would be guilty of doing it when the children were sleeping, you know. But a lot of teachers did. A lot of teachers would. I worked with a teacher where we were right there at circle time, and you're supposed to be reading to the children and all that. She breaking out her phone, looking at her Facebook or whatever. I'm like, what? So yeah. So unfortunately, there's a lot of teachers that are probably getting on social media while they're supposed to be watching your kids. So that's something that the daycare center is not going to tell you. 9 times out of 10, the management don't know about it, and your teacher's certainly not going to tell you. Of course, they're not going to tell you. They ain't gonna bust themselves out. So yeah, those are things that it might be more stuff, but those are a few things that um, happen behind the scenes at daycare centers that um, the daycare center is not going to tell you. The daycare teacher is not going to tell you. They're just not going to tell you. You just there's going to be certain things that goes on at your daycare that you're not going to know nothing about. You know, but I worked in the daycare, and these are the things that I've observed while I was working at this daycare. It's like I said, a lot of things go on in daycare centers that people just don't realize it. And I think that's why you read these stories and you read these cases of um, children being left in cars or whatever, or children having a serious accident or whatever. Um, if the teacher is distracted in some kind of way on her phone, whatever, then those things can happen. And unfortunately, we're living in a age where I know my daycare center that I worked at. I think I did a video talking about that, where the management decided to take the phones away and we had to lock them in a file cabinet. I was doing that for a while until I seen that each time I was putting my phone in there, I'm noticing that my phone is the only phone going in there. So after a while, I was like, well, ain't nobody else. I'm gonna take my phone. I'm not gonna, so it kind of slacked off after a while. So I mean, they did attempt to take the phones away. But unless a daycare center does that, unless they put the rule out there and they strictly enforce it, then 9 times out of 10, your teachers are going to be on social media at some point during the course of the time while they're watching your child. It is what it is. So, like I said, this video was supposed to be done a while back, but I'm doing it now. Stay tuned. I got some more interesting video topics coming up. Just stay tuned.